Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel and welcome to yet another episode of the podcast. We're actually going pretty strong. There's so many episodes and I'm happy that you guys are enjoying them. I see your comments, even though I know that this channel is pretty small still, and I know that this kind of podcast, the type of things, I knew that gonna attract less views. But I'm still happy that some of you are enjoying it because I'm really enjoying recording them. And yeah, I don't know. This is kind of like the most fun part for me to do, just because it's the closest to what I actually do all the time, drawing. So I'm not usually just standing and giving people lectures about what to do. Most of the time I'm just drawing and just wanting to chat to people about what I'm drawing and how to draw. So traditionally, we start episodes with commenting on how long they are, and this one is so it's longer than it's supposed to be because I actually cheated a little bit because I added a little teeny tiny bit from the Monday, but just because I first of all didn't draw on Saturday. I'm not even sure why. I don't remember at this point. I usually record those podcasts maybe 2 weeks in advance. So what I'm showing you is like a 2-week delay. So I'm recording one weekend, recording my voiceover next weekend, and then repeating it on the weekend after. So, and I, at this point, don't remember what I was doing on Saturday for this particular weekend. Probably I was doing something like errands or whatnot, maybe some freelance. But I only have footage from Sunday. And the fun thing is, I think I'm gonna name this episode this way. In this one, we're drawing crotches. That's the theme. We're doing crotches for this female character and crotch for this male character. I actually decided her name now. Her name is Darna, for somebody who was curious of what her name will end up being. In the previous episodes, I was talking that I don't know her name at this point, but the name of the guy is actually Dusk. I was thinking his name was Dark, but his name is actually Dusk. I forgot his own name. I remember it was starting with D and then started with Da, and then it was sounding like some existing word, but the spelling is a little different. I'm sorry, as I've been calling him Dark previously. His name is actually Dusk. I checked it on my Patreon. I actually did a vote and asked people to vote for the color of his eyes. I have a I had the screenshot of him kind of sleeping with his eyes closed, and I asked my patrons which color of the eyes would they prefer him to have, light gray or super dark brown, kind of black looking, and they voted for black looking. So this is how his eyes came to be. But then I checked this post and I realized his name is actually Dusk. This is how I called him in the post, so I guess his name is Dusk. For this lady, I didn't know her name until now her name is Darna. I think both it's maybe a group of people and all their names that just start with Da. I don't know, when I look at the character I rarely think of what their name should be logically be, considering the names of people around them. I keep the vibe of the name depending on the geographical location, or where they are. They're currently there in the North Province and they're pretty mid-northerners, so this is kind of the sounds, a group of sounds that names can have. So to me, it's important that they're within this kind of group. They sound like a northern province names. But other than this, I don't care. If your name is Darna and his name is Dusk, it's fine. If their name starts 50% of their name is the same, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so her name is Darna now that I decided. But so the thing is that you will notice that indeed in this episode I'm gonna be primarily drawing crotches. It's just something that I was not satisfied with how it looks. Oh my god, that's gonna sound really bad. But basically, I just needed to draw it a little bit better, and this is what I was focusing on this Sunday. And typically if I were to do some screen recording and show you guys what how to draw certain things, so just a standard video that I put on YouTube on drawing ones, that not as a not podcast, I would typically not include something like me drawing someone's butt or me drawing someone's crotch or me drawing something like that. But that's not the rules for this thing. In this podcast, where I'm showing you anything that I'm drawing on the weekend, that's the rule that I came up with myself, and I'm gonna stand by it. Because here my goal is really show you guys what it takes to draw something. What does day-to-day drawing sessions look like? What does it feel like to just draw a comic and just constantly draw? And the truth of the matter is, drawing is not as glamorous all the time as like speed painting videos on YouTube that you find. A lot of the time you draw like weird stuff, and you have to draw weird stuff, and you have to draw like, you know, every area of a person to draw a person. So I thought it's actually a good idea and good example for us to actually get, you know, look into this situation and me commenting on it. Because I remember when I was just starting to draw, and not like starting to draw, wait, that's really not, I started drawing when I was like 2 or 3 years old, but when I was really progressing into how to draw people and was practicing all the time, I felt very ashamed of draw certain areas of a person's body in, like, you know, when somebody would watch, because it's kind of tricky in a weird way. It's just because, first of all, there is a lot of social stuff, like, you know, when we think about a human, because we live in this society and because we understand, like, it's pretty complicated. Like, when we look at person, we have a lot of opinions of how this particular person looks. We always judge what's attractive, what's not attractive. We're thinking what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. We can thinking which area of the body should be highlighted, which area of the body should be hidden, which areas are taboos, which poses are like provocative, which poses are not provocative. And then when you're drawing something, and it's basically your interpretation of the shape. And it's one thing when you're drawing hand, for example, or something that I'm doing now, like whatever. If I drew a hand not the best way, it's okay. People are like, oh, she's trying to draw a hand. But if, for example, you're drawing something like boobs or somebody's butt or a crotch or something like this, and you make it look a little wrong, or like a lot wrong, maybe you're still learning, right? There will be mistakes in proportions of how things work. And then people will be looking at it with this social stuff in mind, and with a lot of what we think about these areas of the body. Like, for example, if you drawing, for example, boobs, and you draw them too big just because you don't understand quite how it works. And this is like, you know, I think it's pretty actually standard when you're starting to draw, no matter what gender you are. If you're drawing like a female body, it's pretty standard to draw breasts larger than they are, just because you, in your mind, is like, oh, this is areas of the body that is like popping, right? And you draw them pop, and it takes you some time to understand how it works muscle wise, like fat tissue wise, and everything to make it look standard. You don't understand yet how to draw them looking normal, so, and you just try to emphasize that they are there. So there's a lot of things like that is in conflict with itself. It's like you trying to learn how to draw things, and at the same time, if you make a mistake, society or people looking at you gonna think potentially things about you, because they will think, oh, they're drawing it like this because they have agenda, or I don't know why they're drawing it this way, I don't know, maybe they're weird. So, and I feel like when I at least was a younger artist, and as I was drawing like certain areas of the body, and for example, when I would draw, for example, people naked, because this is necessary step to learning how to draw a human, you have to understand how naked body looks, and then you have to understand how the body that is dressed up look, so how clothes behave, but you need to understand how the body looks itself. So I remember when I was drawing anything like this, like naked human or certain body parts, even if they're clothes, I would always feel very apprehensive and under pressure, knowing that people potentially would look really closely at how I'm drawing it and how did I draw it, because of all of this social thing. And there was another thing that is kind of funny that happened. I remember we were in art school and we went to the zoo to do a little bit of a live drawing practice. So we would go to different cages where animals would be, and would pick animals and would draw them. So the task was like to draw a certain amount of sketches per day. So, and we were all free to go and draw our animals. So, and I remember there was this lion lying on the ground that I wanted to draw, and he was lying on his back, and you can see all his reproductive body parts out in the open. And I was sitting there, and I was not the only one who wanted to draw a lion, obviously. Like, what do you want to draw? Like a lion or a turtle? You want to draw a lion. So I was there, and several other students were there, and they were drawing a lion. And I noticed that nobody is actually drawing this part, like his, male body parts, even though they were so obviously out there, because Lion was like just lying on his back with his legs spread out. Like you probably see like dogs can sleep like this, cats, I don't know. I'm not a cat person. I don't know how cats sleep. And I noticed that kids just don't draw it. I was like, what is happening here? And they would draw everything about this lion. Legs, head, everything, tail. But they would refuse to draw his body part because I think they were ashamed, because a bunch of teenagers didn't want to draw animals. I don't want to say it on YouTube, but they didn't want to draw certain body parts even on an animal. And they were artists, and they were there to learn how to draw things. And at the same time, I could see that they were concerned what people are going to think if they draw this, what the teacher going to think if they draw this, what if they draw this and if they spend too much time drawing this. And you can see that there is so much like drawing time put into this particular area, what people are going to think, then think you're perfect, something is wrong with you. And I remember being confused by this, and also remember myself being also conflicted, because I thought you have to draw it because this is part of the drawing. But if I will be the only one who draws this, does it mean I'm weird or whatnot? But in the end, if you want to be a good artist, you have to look at your subject not as a human. You shouldn't be looking and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to draw this attractive human. Or, oh my God, I'm going to draw this unattractive human. Or I'm gonna draw this very beautiful lady and I'm gonna give her some nice shapes that I would totally, spank. I don't know, you shouldn't be thinking about your subject this way. If you start thinking about your subject this way, this is where weirdness comes out on your drawing. Unless like that's like the style of drawing that you're doing. I don't know, you do you. But this is something that I realize you have to always look at your subject and detach yourself from all of this social stigma. You have to look at the subject as a shape first. A shape, and obviously if you're considering a character, like obviously think about emotions or whatnot, but mostly be very cold and very pragmatic about it. And at some point I remember I decided, whatever, I'm gonna draw everything. This is just stupid to assume like all this social norm and how people are gonna think about whatever you're drawing. It's ridiculous, because if it's blocking me from being an artist, being as good artist as I could be, it's just, why should I hide certain things? Like if you think about everything that you're drawing as shapes, it doesn't make any sense to selectively draw or not draw, hide or not hide, or put in a shadow or something like this certain parts. And obviously it doesn't really apply to my drawing here specifically. Like I'm just drawing like folds on the clothes, right? Nothing crazy is going on. But if I decide to draw naked people, I would draw naked people in all their naked glory. And unless like, again, this is also can go both ways. If you're thinking about your subject not as a shape or the tool that you use to draw, like to depict whatever you want to depict, if you don't think like this, you might go one direction that I was discussing previously, is that try to hide certain things that you are feeling a little bit like uncertain about or ashamed about, or just feeling uneasy. Or on the other hand, you might start reinforcing certain things and drawing your character in the poses or something like this that emphasize certain things because you find them attractive, you want to like show them a little bit. Unless this is the task that you're going for, unless this is something that you want to show with your picture, like for example show a certain character being on purpose sexual, or on purpose demonstrate certain poses or how they act or whatnot. Unless this is the case, you will like your drawing will come across looking like you're drawing your own agenda. And I'm already recorded a video about this, and it's not gonna come out soon because I'm actually really ahead with recording my videos. But it's also, you should be very careful putting your own agenda and your own kinks and fetishes in the drawings. That's why you have to be, it's okay to have it. You do you have whatever fetishes and preferences that you have, but make sure you're aware of them, and whatever you put in your drawing is conscious decision. It's not just there slipped in because you have some stuff that you're not working with, it just slips in without you even noticing. Make sure whatever you're drawing is conscious decision, because this is the point of what you're drawing. So it's very important, that's why, to look at your shape coolly and more reasonable, and not think about your subject as, you know, just another human that you decided not deciding if you want to date, you know. So this is just my long-winded thoughts about it, because I feel it is indeed like difficult when you're drawing, especially humans, like depending what type of artist you are. Like I was always very interested in drawing humans, and that's, I quickly realized that drawing humans means that when other people gonna be looking, they're gonna be judging on a lot of different level, because humans are very complicated in regards to other humans. So that's why I actually think this episode may be very useful, because it's important to draw everything and not be ashamed or feeling uneasy about drawing everything. And, you know, if you don't know how to draw certain parts of it, because that's another thing that what I noticed, like that's ridiculous, but I noticed because, you know, for example, some girls, they might feel like girl artists, right? If a female artist, you are straight female artist, for example, right? So you might feel uncomfortable or strange about drawing some parts of male anatomy, right? And like many reasons. For example, as you're one-on-one sitting with the drawing, you feel uncomfortable, or you're thinking how people are gonna see your drawing and what they're gonna think, or you're drawing, for example, in public with other people. Like, for example, a situation that I had with my co-students in my art school, and you think they're gonna judge you just observing you drawing that, you know. And if, for example, that's the case, I actually saw, because of this, a lot of female artists would avoid drawing this area, and guess what? They would avoid learning how to draw this area, and guess what? They would draw it bad. They wouldn't draw it as good, and it would come across looking strange if everything in their drawing looks good, solid, and they understand the shape and they understand anatomy, but they don't understand one specific area. You clearly can see that they don't know how to draw through it, you know. And I think that's just don't shoot yourself in the foot. Be cold and be like, yeah, I'm drawing whatever I'm drawing. It's, you have to take all this stuff out of the agenda completely. And, you know, especially when you go and you become a professional artist, this is where you have to completely take it out of equation. And for my day job, I did a lot of weird things, and we do a lot of weird things, because you have to really keep your own, how do I say it, like your own emotions or your own preferences or your own uncomfortable areas out of it, because when you do art professionally, they just shouldn't be there, you know. It's just not the place. And for my job, for example, I did a lot of concept art of completely naked creatures, like with just going and being absolutely naked and being in very weird poses. Like, I'm not telling in the details what it is, because I don't know the status of the project, so I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be sued. So that's why I'm not talking details. But, and a lot of things like this is something that you have to just live it away in the lifetime when you were not an artist, kind of like before you, like when you start working with art and you start drawing, just draw everything, don't discriminate any part of what you're drawing. And even if you feel uncomfortable, work on your feelings of uncomfortable, forget about them, and it's, you know, just draw everything. Nothing you should not know what wait, this is how double negative, but you shouldn't be bad at drawing something, and shouldn't not learn how to draw something very well, and you shouldn't practice. You should not practice. Sorry, wow, that's English is difficult. You should not practice drawing certain things because of your personal thoughts and feelings, and you're feeling uncomfortable. Just draw everything. So that's why today I'm proudly drawing crotches. I'm not drawing actually too much of the crotches. I thought, well, now that it's sped up, it didn't feel like I spent a lot of time drawing those crotches, because I also draw them before too. I think I'm not done with the crotches though. I think we're gonna draw some more. But that's why it's kind of important thing, I think, to discuss. And just the same actually with writing, because as you guys can see, like obviously I'm doing comics, and drawing and writing are both part of the comic creation process. And with writing as well, you can notice every time that you, for example, like read someone's book, you can notice when people choose and choose not show, or some things that people should to omit, or they choose to focus so much energy on describing that you're asking yourself why they're describing it so hard, what is going on. So I think for any artist, it always would be kind of choice what they choose highlight or show, and this kind of understanding of how other people are going to perceive it. My personal pet peeve is that in fantasy stories we don't talk as much, I think, as we need to about toilets. And before you think that I completely lost my mind, but the thing is, because if you look at our world, our canalization system takes a big chunk of our world. We have manholes on the street, we have bathtub, we have toilets, we have a separate goddamn room to use toilets in our building, like in our units, in our houses. We have separate rooms for this. Even apartments that, like bachelor ones, have one room, always have this extra room that always set up certain way to help people ease their feeling about washrooms. Every place you go, you will see these rooms. You will see signs on the wall showing where this room is. You will, always, like, this such a becomes such a part of our life, kind of like things like pick up for your dog shows that dogs don't use this system. So if you look at our world and see how little this system is integrated and how much of a big part of it takes, and even, a lot of things related to this infrastructure and this activity of our body is made its way towards swearing words, for example, or just slang. So to me, it becomes really weird when you read a story that has this imagined world and people just pretend like we're not going to discuss how toilets work here because people already know how they. No, we don't. It's a fantasy world. How are they dealing with it exactly? Like, if this world has magic, are they utilizing magic to do that? If they don't have magic and we know that they're not using technology like we do, how are they dealing with this? Do they go outside to the back house? That's it. They just did one, like even if you lived in a rural area and you had back house like I did in Russia, you have to move it from time to time because you cannot just keep putting things in one hole. You have to at some point you have to move it to make sure it all works its way with the ground and whatnot. And then it's a complicated thing, and certain things like this I personally feel like a missed opportunity. You can be talking about so many things, and a lot of areas of our human life, wow, that's got really deep here, but a lot of areas are considered taboos, and the fact that they're considered taboos, it makes its way to our art, and it becomes taboos in our art, which to me sounds strange, right? We have our world, but in the genres like fantasy, we create a new world, and yet taboos, it's like we come up with taboos for this world, with the new worlds, like what is okay, what's not okay. But at the same time, taboos from our world, they bleed through. And this is something that why I'm a big advocate in, if you have something that you're drawing or doing that you feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable with, or that gives you like this feeling of like, is it okay to draw this? Is it okay to do this? What people gonna think of me if I do this? What people gonna think of me if I draw this well or not well, or as I'm drawing it at all? If there is something like this, work on that. Ask yourself why you feel uncomfortable. Where's this feeling of uncomfortability coming from? Who told you it's not okay? Who told you it's like you shouldn't be drawing this? Or who told you shouldn't put attention to this? Who told you shouldn't be talking about this? Analyze it and make sure that by the time you're drawing it, what you want or don't want show is your opinion, and you came up with it yourself, and you're not just projecting whatever people around you told you to do. And I'm not saying it in a sense like don't listen to what other people tell you. It's more about make sure whatever you put on the pages of your comic or on the pages of your book or your stuff is your choice, and it's not enforced by you by society's norm of taboos or for example, somebody at school shaming you for something. So make sure it's your choice made because of you actually thinking, okay, does it make sense for my story to put it in? Does it make sense for my drawing to draw this? Does it make sense for example, my story? This is another question that I keep asking, which I'm asking myself, not you, but that I keep asking myself that I didn't come up with answer yet, is how much I want to show in my story. Like, do I want to show sex in my story? Do I want to show people being naked in my story? Do I want people, if for example I have sex scenes, how am I gonna show those? Like, do I want to actually show everything there, or I want to just imply that it happens? So this is the questions that I'm still asking. I didn't got to the situation when I have to make decision yet, but this is when you will have these choices in your creative projects, when you have to decide how you're gonna approach certain taboo area, certain area that is iffy for other people. Like, for example, now it's kind of trendy to show those things. 10 years ago, it wasn't. It was a little controversial to show things. There is still stigma of, showing naked women is okay, showing naked men only from the back. God forbid we see something from the front, mostly because, some straight guy is gonna get uncomfortable. So that's why I think it's very important to kind of analyze your relationship with taboos and why certain things make you uncomfortable, because a lot of the time it's like people around you are uncomfortable about this and they project it towards you. But when you do your art, you have to make it your own choice, and you have to make this own choice based on what is right for a story and what's right for you, and what the impact that you want to make with the story. Does it make sense? What does it say about your story? What vibe it creates for a story and whatnot. So so I'm really, really going into this controversial topics, but I think we should talk about things like this, and especially I'm very passionate about being sure that you're not affected by other people's issues. Like, you have to be sure that you're not affected by your issues, but also make sure that you don't have certain thoughts of other people around you and their own things affecting your story. Because what's the point of then writing your story? Like, is the story even your own if a lot of people, like, for example, you are just a young artist and you're creating your story, and your family, for example, really uncomfortable of some element of the story, and they think this is how it's supposed to be portrayed, and because your family has access to looking at how you're working and what you're doing, you kind of adjust your story to make sure they don't judge it, or they like it. Or, for example, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your social group, that you keep in mind their preferences and whatnot. And this is what we naturally do as humans, because we're social species. We want to be ostracized or called weird or called strange. But at the same time, if you're an artist and you're creating art, you have to choose it to be choosing to do what's right for your art, not what's right for people around you, because you're creating your art for more people than just your friend group. And just make sure you give everything that you draw and everything that you choose or choose not draw a good thought, and make sure that you are comfortable with decision that you came with and what you're doing. So that's conversation about crotches got really deep real fast, but I thought it's going to be important to discuss. And as I mentioned, that I a little bit cheated for this episode is because I included something from Monday, because I didn't want the video to just start on me drawing a little bit of crotches, a little bit of folds of the clothes overall, and then just end right there. I wanted to add a little bit of footage so you guys see how I'm actually finishing this panel. I think I'm finishing by this time this video runs out, but that's why I included a little bit of this, and also clearly because I wanted to give myself a little bit more time to rant about all these complex feelings and topics. And I really feel that is a very important thing to consider. And this is something I decided I want to talk a little bit more about more like things about people feeling comfortable talking about, because in my real life I don't mind. I'm talking in about every taboo topic possible. I like discussing everything, and I like have this attitude of, okay, you say it's wrong, but why are you saying this? Let's discuss. Let's discuss this. I like to have logical discussions about everything. I like to go into topics when people feel uncomfortable or people afraid of talking about. And I'm not talking like controversial things that offend people or like harmful. I'm talking about just because where people have their own taboos and worries and some topics that we just tend to avoid, but they shouldn't be, I think. So this is like something that I want to discuss a little bit more, because when I started my YouTube channel, I was very very careful of saying only the right words. But I want to discuss now I think I covered all the right topics and the right words, but now I want to go to implement a little bit of what I'm actually passionate about, is just thinking for yourself, analyzing things for yourself, and making sure when you're creating your art, what you're doing is you're doing because you chose to do it, because of you decided that is the best for your story, and how you constantly question things that people say you should or should not do. Because, and I'm not saying it just in no sense of being rebellious or a sense to have this idea that everybody try to control you. No, I just feel that as artists, creative, we're creating something new, and sometimes to create something new we need to analyze and question the old. We need to question the status quo. We need to question how we do things and what we do not want to do with them. And we want to, as artists, make sure that we have our own opinions based on ourselves questioning things around us, questioning ourselves, questioning everything, and have this healthy relationships with reality when we ask, okay, why it is this way? I want to understand. I want to understand if this should stay this way, or if I can have this new idea about it, or just analyze and do or prioritize your story, prioritize telling the best story possible and doing a good job at what you do as a creating art. So a little strange video today, but let me guys know if you enjoyed, if this is something interesting. And for the next episode we will see what I'm gonna talk about. Let's keep it a surprise. So thank you so much guys for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you so much guys. Bye.